So the first time I saw this thing, there was one distinct thought in my mind.
Phew! Let's get Discord and this flower back home. Then all our problems are solved. What in Equestria?
So it occurred to me, guys, that I never actually gave Rainbow Falls a rating last time. So there you go, there's Rainbow Falls rating. Yeah, the dialogue was just a big letdown for me. But anyway, Three's a Crowd. Three's a Crowd is an episode that comes out of a similar mould to Too Many Pinkie Pies, Mystery on the Friendship Express, and Power Ponies, in that it's an episode that tries to be enjoyable rather than try and send any kind of interesting message or develop the characters or story arcs in any major way. The question of whether or not it's successful in doing this is something I hope I'll be able to answer by the end of this review. However, I will say right now that it did leave me very disappointed in the lack of any real development of Discord or Cadence. But I'm not going to hold that against the episode. I've never believed in faulting something for what it doesn't try to do. The first thing I notice is, even though she isn't in the episode for very long, there seems to be something a bit off about Megan McCarthy's writing of Pinkie Pie this season. I don't know if I'm just not finding her as funny, but she seems to be acting a bit too juvenile, even for her. There are a couple of minor things that I enjoyed here. We finally get some sort of idea of what Star Swirl looked like, and the Crystal Empire train looks awesome. It reminds me of the Eurostar or Bullet Train. As for the appearance of the Pony Flash Sentry, I'm pretty sure that's just something the animators did for a bit of a laugh. For one thing, McCarthy has previously said that he wouldn't be in Season 4. For another, it's questionable if Equestria Girls is even canon. Now, I'm not saying that because I didn't like it and I prefer it not to be, though that is also true. I'm saying that because of the way that Twilight is still struggling with her flying at the start of Season 4. There was even one reviewer who complained that it was like they had ignored Equestria Girls. Also, the basic premise of the film doesn't seem to fit well with the mythology of the world this show is set in. I think it works better to say it's not canon. I find it a bit odd that Cadence and Twilight refer to each other as sisters-in-law, since that's not how they first knew each other. They were friends first. Also, since when does being sisters-in-law mean you are close? I know that when my sister gets married next year, I certainly won't be thinking of her boyfriend as my brother-in-law. He has always just been a friend to me. And so to Discord. I don't want to say I didn't enjoy Discord in this episode, I did. I just didn't find his antics quite as funny. There are a couple of good lines, like the mention of the fainting couch, a bit of continuity from Lesson 0, and the lamppost that walks off screen. But most of his dialogue bored me, and the visual humour he normally has also seems to be lacking. Also, why didn't he want Pinkie to take care of him? Is it because he could see that she actually wanted to help him, and he wanted more of a challenge or something? But one thing I do have to give this episode credit for is that there's some good attention to detail in the writing. There are a few times during this episode when the characters asked the obvious questions that I was asking.
How did you even catch this flu? You didn't think to mention it earlier?
I suppose you have a good reason you didn't bother to go get this flower as soon as you realized you were sick. So where exactly are Cadence and I headed?
I thought you were in no condition to travel.
Only a minor detail, but I do like it when writers do this. As long as the explanation makes sense and doesn't open up more questions, it shows that they understand their audience isn't stupid. The song wasn't so much a song as an attempt to show off some interesting visuals and make a bunch of references. Not that I'm really against that, I just don't know if they really needed this to be a song. There was no catchy tune to it, no memorable lyrics, and it certainly isn't the type of song I could listen to the MP3 of since it's dependent on the visuals. But this was at least the most Discord-like antics that we saw in the entire episode. And I did enjoy the references to Pinocchio, Aladdin, and Harry Potter. The scene where Discord told them about the flower really annoyed me. So Discord tells them about the flower, what it does, why he hasn't gone to get it himself, and... oh wait, he's just going to go with them now? Well, why did he spend all that time telling them about it then? Although it was nice to see Twilight get some decent use out of her wings for once. Though, why is it that Cadence actually has more trouble flying when, according to the book Twilight Sparkle and the Crystal Heart Spell, she was actually born a Pegasus? The battle with the Tatzelworm was a pretty enjoyable action sequence. Short, but still enjoyable, and it was cool to see Twilight and Cadence use their horns as laser guns. I was almost expecting one of them to yell "Exterminate," but how the hell did they not see that gigantic flower until they reached the top of the hill? I'm not entirely sure if Discord was telling the truth at the end when he explained to Twilight why he had her go get the flower for him. I think he may have just been trolling them. The way he looks annoyed when Cadence said she actually enjoyed the experience certainly seems to suggest that. And finally, for the big question I have about this episode. What was actually accomplished? Twilight and Cadence were friends before, and they still are. Did the experience bring them any closer? Well, not really, since they were already lifelong friends. Did Discord learn anything? Don't hang around strange creatures with flu unless you are inside a magic health bubble? Did we learn anything new about Discord? Well, no, he was just the same attention-seeking whore as always. Anything new about Cadence? She's a bit of a thrill-seeker. See, I'm trying to find some kind of clear development or lesson here, and I'm just not seeing one. So I have to conclude that despite this episode featuring 2 characters we don't see very often, this episode was purely filler. And even as that, it falls flat. The comedy was boring, the visuals were not all that interesting, and the only real memorable sequence was that fight with the tasselworm. In short, it's a fun episode that I didn't really have any fun with. And considering this was a Discord episode, that really sucks. But with that said, it was also pretty harmless. No major continuity errors or out of character behaviour, no gaping plot holes. Heck, with all that exposition there ought not to be, and it kept me guessing all the way through as to where it was going. I just wasn't all that interested in where it was going. The way I feel about this episode is a lot like May the Best Pet Win. It's like a guilty displeasure. I don't think it's a bad episode, but I don't like it.